is the greatest privilege and responsibility of each American citizen. At its core is the act of exercising political power. It is the fundamental building block of a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is protected and by law reserved for only American citizens. Only U.S. citizens have the right to exercise that power. That's why I announced that Louisiana would be the first state to use the new and improved SAVE database from the Department of Homeland Security 3.5 months ago. SAVE data includes information on individuals who are or were here legally as non-United States citizens. Access to SAVE has allowed our state to check this data against the names of individuals on our voter registration list. Under the previous administration, attempting to use this critical data was costly and onerous. However, under President Trump, our state has been able to use this revamped, easy-to-use database at no cost. Since we first accessed this data in May, my team has been working tirelessly to investigate any instances of non-citizens having registered or voted in Louisiana. Today, I can announce the preliminary results of this active investigation. First, let me be clear, any instance of a non-citizen voting dilutes the vote of eligible citizens. Local races in Louisiana can often be decided by just a handful of votes, or even one vote in some cases. In my first race in 2007, it was decided by just 33 votes. That's why it's critical that we have accurate voter rolls and why I've taken steps to get the tools we need to keep our voter registration list clean. Over the past few months, our investigators within the Secretary of State's Election Integrity Division have worked day and night to check and double-check any instances of non-citizens voting based on the data we received from SAVE. I'm confident that their thorough work and diligent investigations have resulted in an accurate list of individuals who have illegally registered or voted as non-citizens. As a result of their investigation, we found 390 non-citizens registered to vote in Louisiana. Of those, 79 have voted in at least one election. All of those illegally registered individuals have been removed or are in the process of being removed from our voter rolls. It is a crime to register to vote and to vote as a non-citizen, and it undermines the fundamental rights of American citizens. My office will be working with the appropriate authorities for prosecution, and I will be encouraging those authorities to file charges in every single case that the law allows. I want to be clear, non-citizens illegally registering or voting is not a systemic problem in Louisiana. I take great pride in the steps our office takes to maintain accurate voter rolls, including removing deceased individuals from our rolls based on information we received from the Louisiana Department of Health, sending notices to those who may have changed their address, and for the first time in 2025, using the expanded voter list maintenance tools that the legislature passed last year. In fact, our voter list maintenance procedures are a key reason why Louisiana is ranked number 3 in the nation in election integrity. However, we need to be transparent with the citizens of Louisiana if we discover illegal registrants on our voter rolls. This is an important issue to our constituents as they expect and deserve the most accurate voter list possible. This is an essential component of election integrity. As I said before, even one illegal vote dilutes a vote cast by an eligible citizen. I want to thank President Trump and his administration for granting us easier access to the SAVE database, and I would also like to thank the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, and our other federal partners for their continued assistance throughout this investigation. Further, I'd like to express my appreciation to Steve Orlando, who is here with us today, and Louisiana DOEs for working with my office and our partners on this issue, and the Louisiana legislature as well for their commitment to election integrity. In addition to combat any future registrations by non-citizens, my office worked with the state legislature last year to pass Act 500, which was signed into law by Governor Landry. This legislation will allow us to require proof of citizenship when any individual registers to vote, prohibiting non-citizens from ever making it onto our voter rolls. In order to ensure the uniformity of all voter registration forms, we requested the Election Assistance Commission to update our state-specific instructions to the federal registration form related to proof of citizenship. While we await their decision, we will continue to follow all state and federal laws and use all the tools at our disposal to protect our voter list from ineligible registrants. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Secretary Landry, can you explain how it was determined that they were non-citizens?
So we initially got the information from the SAVE database, and they have a list of people's citizenship status. And then we investigated each one to confirm, we worked with the FBI to confirm whether they were a citizen or not a citizen.
As non-citizens, how were they allowed to initially register to vote?
So the way that people register to vote now is they ask, are you a citizen on the registration form? And if they said they were a citizen, they were allowed to register to vote. There were different ways. Some of them registered through the OMB, some of them registered through their local registrar voters offices. But they were, the law in the past allowed us to require proof of citizenship when people registered, and a few years ago that was repealed, and now we don't ask any questions about citizenship other than are you a citizen, you have to attest to that. And so that's why we really needed Act 500 to allow us to start checking on citizenship status again.
So just to clarify, through OMB, if you do register, there's not something that pops up, like when you're getting your license, that might flag that you're a non-citizen?
It's just a question that asks you to attest to your citizenship, and we're relying on them to tell the truth, and they're swearing under penalty of perjury.
So just to clarify, it's 399 citizens were found to have registered to vote. 79 of those actually did vote in at least one election in Louisiana.
Correct.
And so those figures, were those compiled between May and August, or what sort of time frame are we looking at?
That's when we got the data between May and August that we've been now investigating it. The instances of voting go back decades. So it's from, far in the past forward.
Can you speak to like how far back that someone may have cast a vote?
We checked back as far as our records go, and so it's from the beginning of our records.
And how far back do your records go?
I think that some of them are even from the 80s.
Okay.
So the 390 is since the 80s?
It's all of our records. We were able to run we have 2.9 million voters in Louisiana. We were able to run almost all of them and compare them to the state database, except for about 100,000 of them. And so comparing our voter list to the state database, we came up with 395 individuals who have been investigated and found to not be citizens.
Can you speak to what Louisiana Doge plays a role in this investigation?
Louisiana Doge helped us to get access to the state database, and we were the first state to take advantage of the state database that was available to us at no cost. Previously, it cost, I think, around $1.75 per search, and you can only search one name at a time. And so we of course, wanted to do it as soon as we could, and we had a few little technical problems getting our data to them because we were the first ones, and Louisiana Doge helped us to work out those problems by connecting us to the right people at Homeland Security.
Do you have a breakdown of what they were registered, those who voted, and the 370, were they registered as Democrats, Republicans, Independents? Do we have a
I don't
breakdown
have
of that?
that information right now, and it's in an active investigation, so we won't be releasing that right now.
Did your investigators speak to or interview any of these suspects?
Not yet.
We've heard in the past of situations of someone who maybe came into into the country illegally and then got their citizenship through the proper channels. Is it possible that any of these 390 later became citizens?
Each
Or-
one of them has been investigated, and we've been working, like I said, with the FBI to investigate their citizenship status. And each one is given due process under our law. They're given a notice that we have reason to believe they might not be a U.S. citizen, and they have the opportunity to come in and provide documentation that they are in fact a U.S. citizen. And so if they have 21 days to do that, and they're removed from our rules if they don't respond or if they don't come and provide the documentation.
When did those notices go out?
They've been on a rolling basis as we've been confirming their citizenship status.
I'm curious about the nuts and bolts of the prosecution. I think you said you're going to encourage prosecutors to bring charge.
We'll refer for prosecution
Okay.
for both state and federal crimes.
And so, can you just sort of maybe kind of walk me through what that might look like really broadly, really generally?
So it's a crime to both register to vote as a non-citizen, and it's a crime to vote as a non-citizen. And there are both federal crimes and state crimes that they violated, and so it will be prosecuted under whichever is appropriate or both.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this is a question for you, but has anyone been arrested for this?
Not yet.
Are you
It's still an
expecting
active investigation.
Will you disclose the list of the 390?
Not today, it's still an active investigation.
You have comparison databases with other states. I know Alabama is one. Have you found any violations of the, I can't remember how many other states you share that data with. Have you found any violations of people voting in both states during the same elections? Anything with that?
We now have agreements with, I think, 5 states, 5 neighboring states to compare, to see if any of our voters have moved to other states and registered to vote there. And we have not found any that have voted in both states, I don't think, but we are probably still working that list from this. I mean, we have in the past, of course, but there's no recent ones that I'm aware of, but we're still working, we work that data constantly.
Were any of these 379 possibly in other states registered to vote as well? And have those states been notified?
I don't know, we don't have that information.
And then one more clarification, the 390, I know you had also said illegally registered, but the 390 is specifically non-citizens.
The 390 are non-citizens who registered, the 79 actually voted. They registered and voted. So the 79 is a subset of the 390.
Okay.
And this may not be for you, but do you have an idea of when the earliest we could possibly see charges filed would be?
I can't give you a timeline right now. I think that, we have to allow the due process to take place, and so it would be after that time elapses.
How many parishes?
It's not every single parish. I don't have the list of parishes, and it is multiple parishes, though.
And I know you talked about some close races where I'm sure you're still looking into it, but were any of these a determining factor in any really close races?
We haven't dug into the data that deeply yet, and of course the time has already prescribed for contesting an election, so that's why we haven't done that yet, but it's, we always have very close races in Louisiana, especially on the local level, and so that's why it's really important that we keep our voter list clean, and it's why it's very important that the legislature enacted Act 500 to allow us to prevent this from happening in the first place. So we're hoping that going forward, that we'll be able not only to clean up our voter rolls on the back end, but we'll be able to ask questions on the front end and prevent people from registering who are not eligible to vote. Because like I said, any ineligible voter on our rolls cancels the vote of an eligible voter.
You talked a little bit about the SAVE database. Can you say anything more about like the nuts and bolts of how that works and what you have access to? And
Sure. So the SAVE database is really an aggregation of data from the federal government. It has Social Security death information, and it has felony convictions, and it has citizenship status. It's like an aggregate of different databases, and we have to have certain information to match the data points on those lists. And so we use last four Social Security, we were the first state to do that, and we also use driver's license information and Social Security numbers, and we were able to match people using that data. And then we manually worked the list when we got it and made sure that we investigated every single one to see if they had been naturalized or if there were any other reasons why they may have registered to vote.
Do you know if that access is going to continue to remain free of charge to the state?
As far as we know, it is. I mean, President Trump has committed to providing that data to us, and Secretary Denham has committed to providing it to us free of charge. It was very onerous before. We couldn't batch search. We could only search one at a time, and now we were able to run 2.9 million, or almost 2.9 million individual names through the list all at once, which is very, very helpful. We didn't have access to in the past. It was very hard to get access to it. Some states did have it, but we were in the process of trying to get access to it, and we hadn't been granted that access yet. But we also have access now to OMB data that Governor Landry gave us, and we're grateful for that as well too, because that allowed us to check an initial check and with our own OMB data, and that was a new thing too. We didn't have access to that in the past either. So things are turning around, and we're hoping that going forward we're going to keep our voter rolls much cleaner.
And I'm sorry, you said Louisiana was the first state to use this database? Or-
Yes, we were the first state to run our voter rolls through the state database to compare to the citizenship status that was available on the state database.
When the investigation wraps, do you plan to release information like the parishes, the parties, and some of the other questions that we've asked?
We would be free to release that information once the investigation is complete. And I would imagine the prosecuting agencies would do so as well.
Do you have any anticipation of what that timeline could be?
I don't know, I don't know